The galaxy had waited for this moment for years, the final battle that would decide everything, the end of the human wars. Around the cold and dead world of Zareth, thousands of alien warships floated in silence, forming a metal storm across the stars. Their hulls shimmered under the dim light of a dying sun, their weapons glowing, ready to fire. The alien commanders stood proud on their bridges, confident, arrogant, sure that humanity's end had finally come. They had crushed hundreds of planets before, burned colonies, and forced humanity back to the edge of known space. Now they were waiting for Earth's last desperate fleet to appear, ready to destroy them all in one final strike. But when the scanners picked up a signal, something strange happened. It was not a fleet. It was not a group of ships. It was only one. A single human ship emerged from hyperspace, drifting slowly toward the massive alien armada. For a few seconds, everyone thought the sensors were broken. A single ship against thousands? It had to be a mistake. On every alien bridge, laughter began to echo. Commanders shouted in their own strange languages, mocking the humans they had fought for decades. One ship? That is all they send? One alien admiral said, his voice sharp and cruel. Maybe humans finally learned their place. Another laughed and added, maybe their fleet was too scared to come. The laughter grew louder, filling every frequency across the battle network. But deep inside, some of them felt something else. It was too quiet. The human ship was not broadcasting any message. No demand for peace. No threat, no name. It simply drifted forward, large and dark like a shadow moving through fire. Its shape was strange, sharp and wide like a blade. Its surface covered in dark armor that reflected nothing. No lights, no symbols, no movement. Just a silent ghost cutting through space. One alien captain leaned closer to the holographic display, staring at the ship. "Why are they not responding?" he asked. "Why are there no life signs?" His crew checked the readings again and again, but the scanners showed nothing. The ship's systems were unreadable, its energy output off the charts. It wasn't just a ship. It was something else, something that didn't belong to normal space. Then, for the first time, the ship moved. Slowly, a dim blue light appeared along its side, glowing like a sleeping eye opening in the dark. The laughter stopped. Every alien commander turned silent. The blue light grew brighter, stronger, spreading across the hull in thin glowing lines, forming patterns that no one could understand. The human ship began to hum, a low vibration that rippled through the vacuum, shaking sensors, rattling metal frames. Inside the human ship, only one man stood at the command center, Captain Arlen Hayes. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. His eyes were fixed on the holographic map of the enemy fleet surrounding him. His mission was simple: end the war. He reached forward and placed his hand on the control panel. The ship responded with a deep pulse like a heartbeat. On the alien bridges, panic started to spread. "It's charging weapons," someone shouted. "No, it's charging something bigger." The admirals barked orders, weapons locked, thousands of cannons aimed at the lone ship. Yet, even as they prepared to fire, the human vessel didn't move faster or slower. It kept its steady pace, silent and calm, as if it didn't even see them. Then one alien whispered something that no one else wanted to say. "What if one ship is all they need?" His voice shook. The silence that followed was heavier than the darkness around them. The laughter was gone now. The fear had begun. The single human ship kept coming, and not one alien in the entire fleet could look away. The human ship moved closer, its enormous form filling the dark sky. The alien fleets adjusted their formation, rows of glowing engines shifting position, surrounding the human vessel like hunters closing in on a wounded beast. But the human ship did not stop. It drifted forward, slow and steady, its hull covered in strange lines that shimmered faintly like veins of light beneath steel. The silence between the fleets grew heavy, every alien crew waiting for the first move. Inside the alien flagship, Admiral Kareth watched from his bridge. His scales twitched with unease, though he tried to hide it. "They dare face us with one ship," he muttered. "Let them see the price of arrogance." He ordered all cannons to lock on target. But when the targeting systems tried to focus on the human ship, the readings began to blur. Energy levels fluctuated wildly. The scanners couldn't find a weak point. "What is this?" Kareth growled. "Why can't we read it?" His crew tried again, but the sensors only returned static. On board the human ship, Captain Arlen Hayes stood in the quiet command center. The room was dim, filled with soft blue light, Screens floated in the air, showing hundreds of alien ships aiming their weapons at him. His face stayed calm. He whispered a command, and the ship's AI responded with a gentle tone. "Weapons ready," the AI said. "All systems optimal." Arlen took a slow breath. He remembered the message from Earth Command. "You are the last defense of humanity. Make them remember who we are." Outside, the alien fleets opened a communication channel. "Human vessel, identify yourself," one voice shouted. "Surrender now or be destroyed." The human ship didn't answer. The silence stretched, turning their confidence into irritation. Another commander sneered, "Maybe they're already dead." Laughter followed, echoing again through the intercoms. But deep down, the laughter didn't sound the same this time. It carried fear. Without warning, the human ship's engines flared, blue light bursting across the hull like veins of fire. The entire ship vibrated once, a deep hum spreading through space. Alien sensors went wild. Gravitational fields bent, radiation spiked, communication channels filled with interference. "What did they just do?" Kareth shouted. His ships began to drift out of formation as their stabilizers faltered. "Stabilize the fleet!" "Hold position." But the void itself seemed to tremble. Then the human ship spoke. A single voice, calm and cold, echoed through every alien system at once. "You attacked our worlds. You called us weak. You laughed when we begged for peace. Now you will understand what one human ship means." Before any alien could respond, the human vessel released a pulse. Silent, invisible, and unstoppable. Every ship it touched lost power. Lights went out, engines failed, weapon systems died. 1,000 warships went dark at once, floating helplessly around the lone human craft. The aliens panicked, shouting over dead channels, trying to restart systems that no longer existed. Captain Hayes watched from his bridge, his hands steady. "They wanted to see our power," he whispered. "Now they will see our warning." He pressed one final command. A wave of light spread from the ship's core, bright and silent, painting the dead world of Zareth in ghostly blue. When it faded, only silence remained. Among the ruins of their pride, the alien fleet realized too late what had come for them. It wasn't an army. It was a judgment. And it had only begun. The alien admiral struggled to believe what they were seeing. Their ships, once proud and glowing with power, now floated dead and silent in the dark. Entire fleets hung motionless, weapons frozen, lights gone. The human ship moved among them like a shadow, its surface glowing faintly blue, humming with quiet power. It didn't fire again, didn't speak, didn't even acknowledge their presence. It just drifted, calm and steady, as if it had already won. Admiral Kareth slammed his clawed hand against the control panel, his voice rising with panic. "Restart the reactors. Get the engines back online." But his officers looked helpless. "Sir, it's impossible," one said, trembling. It's like our systems are frozen in time." Kareth's breath grew heavy. He turned toward the main screen, watching the human vessel glide past his ships like a silent god. "No ship should have this power," he muttered. "No race should." On the other side of space, hundreds of alien commanders tried to re-establish communication. Most failed. Static filled their channels, broken voices shouting for help that would never come. Some ships tried to fire manually, hoping to hit the human craft by chance. None of their weapons worked. Even missiles that launched drifted without ignition, like dead metal birds. Then, without warning, the human ship sent out a signal. Every disabled system flickered back to life, but not fully, just enough to activate the view screens. A single transmission appeared on all of them. It wasn't a soldier. It wasn't a threat. It was a human face. Captain Arlen Hayes looked calm, his expression cold and unblinking. His voice was steady, deep, and emotionless. "This is Captain Hayes of the Terran ship Oblivion. Stand down. Leave human space now or face extinction." The words echoed across every bridge, every cabin, every command center in the fleet. Some aliens shouted in anger. Others froze, afraid to even move. One captain whispered, "Extinction?" from one ship. But the more they stared at the human face, the less they doubted. His eyes carried the weight of 1 billion lost lives, burned colonies, and the pain of a species that had been pushed too far. Admiral Kareth clenched his jaw and roared, "He's bluffing! Humans can't wipe out fleets with one ship." But deep inside, he didn't believe his own words. He gave the order anyway. "Charge remaining weapons manually. Fire everything we have." Thousands of ships tried to obey. Turrets turned, missiles aligned, cannons prepared to fire. The human ship didn't move. It didn't raise shields. It didn't even react. The first plasma cannon fired. A single blue beam shot across space toward the Oblivion. The moment it touched the hull, the beam vanished. Not absorbed. Not reflected. Just gone like it had never existed. Then came the second shot, the third, and then 1,000 more. Each one disappeared in silence. The alien screamed, demanding to know what was happening. On Kareth's bridge, one of his engineers stared in disbelief. "Sir," he said softly, "it's not destroying our weapons. It's rewriting them. The energy doesn't exist after contact." "It's gone." Kareth's eyes widened. "Gone where?" Before anyone could answer, the Oblivion released another pulse, stronger this time. The wave spread outward, and ships began to vanish one by one, fading into thin air like dust in sunlight. No explosion, no wreckage, just emptiness. One by one, fleets disappeared from every sensor. Captain Hayes watched the screens, his voice calm. "They wanted war," he said quietly. "Now they'll remember why they should never want it again." The alien admirals stared at the fading lights of their own ships, the laughter of earlier replaced by the silence of fear. No one spoke. No one moved. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy understood that humans were not a small race struggling to survive. They were the storm that silence followed, and the Oblivion was only its whisper. The light from the human ship faded slowly, leaving behind a sky full of silence. Where hundreds of alien fleets once shined like stars, now there was nothing, only dark fragments floating like dust. The few remaining ships kept their distance, too afraid to move, too afraid to speak. Every signal sent toward the human vessel vanished before it reached it. It was as if the ship existed in its own world, untouchable beyond reason or science. Captain Arlen Hayes stood motionless at the center of his ship's command deck. The air around him vibrated softly with the hum of the reactor. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were fixed on the galaxy map glowing before him. Red marks blinked everywhere. Enemy positions, command posts, hidden bases. The war had spread far across the stars, and humanity had lost millions. He whispered quietly, "This ends now." The ship responded like it could hear his thoughts. Massive plates on its surface began to shift, sliding apart to reveal layers of glowing mechanisms underneath. Blue energy flowed like rivers through the hull, and the engines pulsed brighter, turning the black sky into a sea of light. The aliens watching from afar could only stare, their scanners unable to explain what they were seeing. One admiral whispered, "That's not a weapon. That's a living thing." A deep vibration rolled through space. The human ship's wings unfolded, two enormous arcs of light spreading outward, stretching hundreds of kilometers. They shimmered like fire and mist, moving with precision and grace. The sight alone silenced every alien voice. Even those who had mocked humanity now watched in awe, realizing that this was not technology. It was something beyond understanding. Then, space itself began to bend. Stars around the Oblivion appeared to twist, their light curving unnaturally as if pulled by invisible hands. The alien captains panicked, shouting orders to retreat, but it was too late. The human ship's gravity core had awakened, and the battlefield became its playground. Every nearby ship was caught in a wave of distortion, their engines screaming as reality folded around them. From the bridge, Arlen's voice was calm. "They brought this war to us. Now we bring silence to them." He pressed his palm against the control panel, and the ship responded instantly. A bright pulse exploded from the center of the vessel, silent and blinding. It expanded like a ripple across space, swallowing everything in its path. Alien warships shattered, not from impact, but from the pressure of space collapsing on itself. No sound, no debris, just light fading into darkness. In distant command centers across the galaxy, transmissions went dead one after another. Generals shouted for updates, but the screens showed only static. Entire fleets had vanished from the grid. The commanders looked at one another in disbelief. "It's impossible," one muttered. "No weapon can do this." Another replied in a whisper, "It's not a weapon. It's vengeance." Back on the Oblivion, the ship's AI spoke softly. "Operation threshold complete. All targets neutralized." Arlen exhaled slowly, his eyes reflecting the empty space where the enemy once stood. He didn't smile. There was no joy in victory, only quiet sorrow. "How many more before they understand?" he murmured. Outside, fragments of metal drifted through the void, glowing faintly before fading to dust. The human ship slowly powered down, its wings folding back into place. Around it, space fell silent again, peaceful and still. Far away, the few alien survivors fled, carrying stories that would echo for centuries. They would tell others what they saw, the ship that bent stars, the humans who commanded silence. The moment laughter turned to fear. Captain Hayes looked at the darkness one last time and whispered, "War ends when fear begins." Then the Oblivion turned away and vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind nothing but a legend written in the quiet heart of the stars. The galaxies whispered about what had happened near Zareth. Signals had gone dark, fleets had vanished, and every listening post across the stars caught only a faint echo, a low, rhythmic pulse that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The survivors who escaped spoke in trembling voices. They said the human ship didn't fight. It decided, it judged, it erased, and when it was done, it left without a word. In the heart of alien territory, meetings began in panic. The proud empires that once boasted of their conquests were now silent. Generals argued, politicians shouted, and scientists replayed sensor logs that made no sense. "One ship cannot do this," one shouted. "It's impossible." But the data didn't lie. Whatever humanity had built was beyond logic. Energy levels higher than suns, gravity signatures older than recorded time. It was something no species had ever seen before. In the High Council of the Zelvikar Dominion, their supreme leader, Vraxtor, slammed his claws onto the table. "They humiliated us," he hissed. "They killed millions of our soldiers like they were dust. I want retaliation." But his advisors avoided his eyes. None of them wanted to face that ship again. "How do we fight something that doesn't bleed?" one whispered. "If one ship can do this, what happens if they send two?" Across the stars, the humans remained silent. No broadcasts, no warnings. The ship Oblivion had vanished from every known sector. Only faint radiation traces remained, but even those faded quickly, as if the ship had never existed. Inside the vessel, Captain Arlen Hayes stood alone, watching Earth's blue image hover on a holographic screen. The message he received from Earth Command played in his memory again and again. "You must make them understand." Peace through fear if peace through words fails. His jaw tightened. He knew what that meant. They hadn't sent Oblivion just to destroy. They sent it to remind the galaxy that humanity had endured enough. The AI voice filled the room, calm and almost human. "All enemy fleets neutralized. No signals detected. Mission parameters complete." Arlen didn't answer. He looked out the wide viewport where the distant stars shimmered. "No," he said quietly. "The mission isn't complete. Not until they remember what they did to our worlds." His fingers brushed the control console. The ship hummed in response, its core flickering with light like it could feel his anger. At that moment, a transmission arrived, a weak, trembling signal from an alien channel. "Human vessel, we surrender," the voice said. "We will retreat from all human systems." "Please stop." The voice cracked with fear. Arlen didn't reply immediately. He let the silence stretch long enough for the weight of it to crush the speaker on the other end. When he finally answered, his voice was steady. "We don't want surrender. We want memory. Remember what happens when you laugh at humanity." The channel cut off. Across the alien networks, the message repeated automatically, spreading through the communication grids like a ghost in the system. Every race, every commander, every world saw the same face, the face of a calm human captain staring directly at them. Behind him, the massive ship pulsed with light, its engines glowing like the heart of a star. No one dared speak against it. The galaxy began to pull back its forces. Treaties that had never existed before were signed in secret. Worlds that had once enslaved humans now sent envoys begging for peace. The name Oblivion became forbidden on alien lips, spoken only in fear. In the quiet of his bridge, Captain Hayes closed his eyes. He knew the price of peace had been heavy, but in that silence he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Calm. "Let them remember," he whispered, his voice low, his expression cold but tired. That one ship was enough. Outside, the human vessel faded once again into the darkness of space, its engines dimming as it disappeared into the void, leaving behind only the echo of its final pulse, a quiet reminder that the humans had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. The war was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than battle. Across the stars, Alien worlds that once cheered for humanity's destruction now whispered the same name in fear. Oblivion. Some called it a weapon, others a curse. None knew the truth. They only knew one thing. When that ship appeared, armies vanished and laughter died. On the quiet bridge of the human vessel, Captain Arlen Hayes sat alone, staring at the endless blackness outside. The galaxy had finally stopped fighting, yet peace felt hollow. He remembered the faces of the colonies lost, the cities burned, the children who never made it home. Their memories lived in the silence around him. Was it worth it? He whispered to himself. The AI, calm as always, replied, "Peace is achieved. Objective completed." But Arlen shook his head. Peace isn't silence. It's understanding. And they don't understand yet. Far away in the council chambers of a dozen alien empires, leaders met in fear. Some wanted to form a truce with humanity. Others wanted revenge. But none had the courage to act. Every scan, every attempt to track the Oblivion failed. It was as if the ship could vanish from time itself. Reports said it could appear in one system and disappear the next second, reappearing thousands of light years away. Some thought humans had mastered teleportation. Others believed they had made a deal with something divine. Admiral Kareth, one of the few survivors of the Zareth massacre, sat in silence before his council. His once proud voice trembled as he spoke. "You can build fleets, you can make weapons, but none of it matters," he said softly. "They don't fight for power. They fight for something else." The council demanded to know what that something else was. Kareth looked up with tired eyes and whispered, "They fight for every child you made cry, for every world you turned to ash. They don't fight to win. They fight so no one forgets." That same night, strange signals began to appear across alien communication lines. Short bursts of static repeating in rhythm. At first they seemed random. But soon scientists decoded the pattern. It was a human heartbeat. The same pulse that Oblivion sent before every battle. It echoed across hundreds of systems, impossible to trace or stop. It didn't destroy anything this time. It simply reminded them that the humans were still watching. In dark war rooms and royal halls, panic grew. Entire fleets were recalled, factories shut down, and propaganda changed. The same races that once called humans primitive now called them untouchable. Meanwhile, on the edge of human space, Captain Hayes received new orders from Earth Command. His mission was complete. He was to return home. But he hesitated. He stood by the wide observation window, watching a nebula glow faintly in the distance. "Home," he murmured. "Does it even exist anymore?" He knew that the humans he fought for would never truly know what Oblivion had done. The truth would remain buried, classified, forgotten, replaced with stories of bravery and defense. But he had seen the truth. Peace wasn't born from kindness. It came from fear. As the ship's engines prepared for hyperspace, Arlen gave one final command. "Record message for all human colonies," he said. "Tell them, humanity is safe, but never trust the silence. It always remembers." The Oblivion shifted, light bending around it as it entered the void once again. From a distance, it looked like a ghost vanishing between stars. The AI's final words echoed in the empty bridge. Mission archived. Awaiting purpose. And then there was nothing, just darkness, endless and quiet. But somewhere in the farthest corners of the galaxy, the heartbeat of humanity still pulsed through the void, steady and calm, reminding everyone that even when humans are unseen, they are never gone. The story of the Oblivion spread faster than light itself, crossing systems that had never even heard of humans. It became a myth. Some said the humans had created a god machine, others believed it was a punishment from the universe itself. But those who had seen it knew the truth. It was real. It was human. And it had changed everything. In the shadowed halls of the alien Grand Council, silence ruled. The leaders of once mighty empires sat together for the first time in history, not to plan war but to prevent it. No one dared speak of revenge anymore. They talked only about survival. "If one ship can do this," said a trembling voice, "what happens if they send a second?" The question hung in the air like a knife and no one answered. They didn't need to. Meanwhile, far from the crowded systems, the Oblivion drifted alone through the quiet dark. Captain Arlen Hayes stood by the observation glass, staring at the faint glow of a dying star. His reflection looked older, heavier, as if the war had carved lines into his soul. The ship's AI broke the silence. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," it said softly. "Authorization level 1. He hesitated before responding. "Play it." A hologram appeared, a familiar face from home. The voice was calm, formal, almost emotionless. "Captain Hayes, your mission is complete. The galaxy has withdrawn its forces. You will return to Earth for debriefing." Then the image flickered and disappeared. For a long time, Arlen didn't move. "Return," he whispered. "To what?" The stars outside looked the same as they had before the war, but everything had changed. Humanity had shown its power, and now every world lived in fear of it. Was that peace or just another kind of prison? The AI's voice interrupted his thoughts again. "Captain, multiple signals detected." Arlen turned sharply. "Identify." The screen filled with icons, small ships, hundreds of them, not alien but human. Civilian vessels, explorers, refugees, scientists. They were coming out of hiding, returning to the stars they had once fled from. "They're rebuilding," he whispered. "They're not afraid anymore." Outside, small human ships passed near the Oblivion, keeping a respectful distance. To them, it wasn't just a battleship. It was a symbol, a protector, the reason they could explore again without fear. Arlen watched as children pressed their faces against windows, waving at his massive ship as they passed. For the first time in years, he felt something other than emptiness. He gave the ship a quiet command, "Broadcast to all vessels." The AI obeyed, and his voice carried across the stars. "This is Captain Arlen Hayes of the Oblivion. The war is over. Humanity lives. But remember this, the strength of our hands is nothing without the mercy of our hearts. Build. Don't destroy. Be the kind of people the galaxy will never fear again." There was silence after his words, but it wasn't empty. It was full, alive, hopeful. Across the radio, small ships began to flash their lights in response, one after another, until the dark sky glittered with thousands of tiny signals, like stars answering back. The Oblivion turned slowly, its engines glowing with soft blue light. "Set course for home," Arlen said quietly. The AI replied, "Course set." "Welcome home, Captain." The great ship drifted forward, leaving behind a trail of light that shimmered like dust in the void. Behind it, alien sensors watched but did not follow. No one dared. They only recorded the message that spread like fire through every network and every language. One human ship arrived. The galaxy laughed. And then the galaxy learned. The Oblivion vanished into hyperspace, taking with it the last echo of the war and the first heartbeat of peace. The stars grew quiet again, but this time it wasn't fear that filled the silence, it was respect. The humans had come, and they had reminded the universe what strength truly meant.